Hello and welcome back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I have some breaking news coming out here for you, and a story to bring to you coming out from Ukraine. So, we're going to be talking about the UK and also Ukraine. So, this gentleman on the right side of your screen, his name is David Cameron. He is UK's foreign secretary, and he recently was visiting Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, to meet with President Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine. That's him on the left side of your screen. And while he was here, he was discussing the war that's going on, obviously, between Russia and Ukraine. And they were trying to figure out whatever they can do for Ukraine. And we know that the UK has been stepping up a lot lately and providing tons of aid to Ukraine. And they're also committing to like several years worth of potentially up to $3 billion, I believe, in supplies to Ukraine. So they're definitely committed to this war that's going on against Russia. And that's why the foreign secretary from the UK was visiting in Ukraine recently. So this story comes out that while he was visiting, he told Zelensky that Ukraine has the right to use British supplied weapons to strike Russia inside its own territory. Now this is very big news because we know that Ukraine is receiving these British Storm Shadow missiles. These are cruise missiles that are pretty powerful, and they've been very effective inside of Crimea. So Crimea has been hit by multiples of these British Storm Shadow missiles. I just covered that maybe like a month and a half ago. There was a major attack inside Crimea using these Storm Shadow missiles. Well, now David Cameron's coming out and saying that Ukraine can use these inside of Russia if they want to. He's giving them the green light to strike Russian targets inside of Russian territory. Now, this is really, really big news because this right here is escalation, showing that this war is progressively getting worse and it's getting closer and closer to some sort of involvement with NATO. They're obviously allowing these strikes inside of Russian territory now with these weapons. So this is really, really big news. So I want to go ahead and get right into this. We're also going to go over a video as well, talking about some of the things that UK's commitment is to Ukraine. We'll show you a video with David Cameron here in just a moment. But let's take a look at this on Politico. Ukraine can strike inside Russia with British weapons, UK's Cameron says. UK's diplomat also pledges $3 billion of annual military help to Ukraine for as long as it takes. So look at that, for as long as it takes. They're willing to commit for years, okay? Let's say 5 to 10 years. Let's say this is one of those forever wars that goes on for like 20 years, like what happened in Afghanistan. They're willing to commit 3 billion at least, maybe more, 3 billion pounds of annual military aid to Ukraine for as long as it takes. That's absolutely insane. So it says here, Ukraine has the right to use British supplied weapons to strike Russia inside its own territory, UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron said on a trip to Kiev. In an interview with Reuters, Cameron said it was up to Ukraine to decide how UK weapons are used. Asked if that included targets inside Russia, he said Ukraine has that right. Just as Russia is striking inside Ukraine, you can quite understand why Ukraine feels the need to make sure it's defending itself. So, I mean, I kind of understand that to an extent. I don't think it's a good idea for them to be striking inside of Russia. But at the same time, I've reported many times, I mean, there was literally just an attack again on Kharkiv, I think, overnight last night. But many cities in Ukraine are just completely destroyed. Okay? And for the most part, what I've reported coming out from Ukraine striking Russia is mostly like their oil depots. They attacked like a steel plant one time and also an aircraft production facility. But we haven't really seen much other strikes other than that. And for the most part, when it comes to this war, what we see is many cities in Ukraine that are just completely destroyed. And on the Russian side, it's not really like that, at least from what I've reported. So I don't know. Maybe this war is going to start to change here, and we're going to see much more attacks inside of Russia since we've already been seeing that with drones. So since the beginning of the war, Ukraine's Western partners have set one condition for Kiev to keep military aid coming: don't strike in Russia. But countries including Finland and Latvia have since said they support Ukraine's right to use weapons they have provided to defend itself, including strikes in Russia. Cameron, a foreign British prime minister who returned to frontline politics late last year, was speaking on his second trip to Kiev since taking the job. It comes a week after the UK announced its largest ever military aid package to Ukraine in further show of support. Cameron pledged $3 billion of annual military help to Ukraine for as long as it takes. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked Cameron for the support in his meeting with the UK diplomat, but he stressed the importance of getting weapons from the new aid package into Ukraine as soon as possible. First of all, armored vehicles, ammunition, and missiles of various types. So that's obviously a big talk right now, too, is that Zelensky's come out many times, okay, their commander, their foreign minister as well said many times, like, we got to get this aid quickly. The foreign minister even said one time at a NATO meeting in Brussels recently that they didn't need this aid tomorrow. They needed it not even today. They needed it yesterday. Okay, they should have gotten it months ago, 6 months ago, 3 months ago at least. So, obviously Ukraine's in a really tough position right now. I'll be doing some more videos talking about that probably later today or tomorrow. And, in the meantime, this is pretty crazy news. I mean, we're going to start seeing strikes inside of Russian territory with these cruise missiles. Now, we've mainly only been seeing drone strikes for the most part, but now Ukraine's got these ATACMS missiles. They're probably getting more British Storm Shadow missiles. So Ukraine's going to be able to start striking inside Russian territory, at least, 200 to 300 kilometers inland. And this is really going to change the dynamics of this war, at least I believe it will be. Especially, imagine if they start using these cruise missiles to start taking out these oil depots, okay? These may be more effective than just using the drones that they've been using. So, I don't know. We're going to have to see how this plays out. But I've got one last thing to show you here real quick. This is going to be on X from Noel Reports. It says here, British Minister of Foreign Affairs David Cameron recorded a video in the center of Kiev repeating the British commitment to support Ukraine. He also passionately urged other countries to provide multi-year commitments for aid to Ukraine. So I wanted to show you this video because he talks a little bit about their commitments to Ukraine, this $3 billion annual funding, and then also he's encouraging more countries in Europe to start standing up for Ukraine. And I don't know, I think we're going to start to see that because there's lots of pressure that's going to be put on NATO members, especially with the NATO chief just recently visiting Ukraine as well. We're going to start seeing more countries, I believe, getting involved here and helping out. So let's go ahead and take a look at what he has to say here.
Now, Britain is not only one of the biggest supporters of Ukraine, diplomatically, economically, and crucially militarily, we're also one of the fastest. We were one of the first to provide weapons when this country was illegally attacked by Putin. We were the first to sign this new security partnership. And recently, we've been the first to announce a multi-year package of funding for Ukraine, including military support. That is £3 billion a year, not just this year and next year, but for as many years as Ukraine needs it. Why is it so important to do this? Well, it's important because Ukraine needs help now. They've done brilliantly on the Black Sea, sinking so much of Putin's Black Sea fleet, but there are challenges on land and they need to meet those challenges. It's also important to be fast because it gives us leverage. It gives us the ability to say to other countries, we're making that multi-year commitment, you should make that multi-year commitment too. Why does this all matter so much? Well, it matters crucially for this country, a sovereign country that was illegally invaded and they want their territorial integrity back. But it also matters for us. Ukrainian security is about European security, is about British security. And as I see it, there are two futures here for us. One is we push back Putin, there's a just peace and this country recovers its sovereignty, and NATO will be stronger, Europe will be stronger, Britain will be stronger. But there is an alternative scenario where we don't back Ukraine sufficiently, where Putin scores a win here in Ukraine and we'll be living in a far more unsafe and uncertain and dangerous world that will cost us in so many ways. So the investment we're making today in Ukraine's security is the best possible investment we could make in our own security and our own prosperity. And that's why I'm so passionate about getting this right.
Okay, so we see a lot of that, a lot of the same type of talk. I've reported this many times where even the NATO chief has said that the investment in Ukraine is not only security for Ukraine, but it's security for Europe. So in order to protect Europe is how they see it. They got to keep Ukraine going, okay? They got to keep this war grinding on, and hopefully it'll eventually either push Russia back away from Ukraine, or which I don't know if that would ever happen because it seems like Russia's committed at least for the next few years, or maybe altogether they may just give up and withdraw. We'll have to see what happens, but I think that's what not only David Cameron with UK, but also lots of many countries in Europe believe that if they keep this war going long enough, that at some point maybe Russia will just back off and give up this fight. But regardless, I think this war is going to continue on for a long time. It could go on for several more years, or I don't know if the front line breaks, which it could be breaking right now. We're starting to see that. Things can get wild here very quickly. But regardless, like I said, this story coming out where UK is going to be allowing them to use these British Storm Shadow missiles or whatever other equipment they give them to strike inside of Russia. We're definitely going to start seeing some big strikes on Russia here pretty soon. At least in my opinion, I think we're going to start seeing that. And again, this is just more escalation, pushing us closer to an inevitable conflict between NATO and Russia, which I hope never happens, but it could get us there very quickly whenever this starts to happen. So let me know what you think down below. Share your thoughts, concerns, and opinions down in the comments section. That's going to be it for this update. If you got something out of this update, please smash that like button. And also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, I hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.